can I ask you a personal question? And this is more of a segue from, and feel free to disregard, we can move on, but this is in regards to Michaela and you said Andy's the other? Nathan Chan, right? And you said, can people compete at the same level? The big hot topic right now in the sports, collegiate sports, and I don't know if it maybe has or if it will make its way to the Olympics, but what are your thoughts as an athlete in regards to this whole biological male-female competing in the other sports, if it's not a personal question?
That one it's kind of hard and this might not be the answer that anybody really wants to hear. So the IOC has specific standards that have to be met in terms of hormone levels, whatnot, if people are transitioning. With collegiate sports, I won't lie about it. My biggest struggle is that people almost are attacking the athlete. And I still think that if you want to compete, you should compete, whether that's at a college level, at a city league level, at a professional level, whatever it is. I love sports, right? And I don't want anyone to ever feel like they aren't allowed to find a place to compete. What I really don't like is when we start attacking the athlete as an individual instead of the system that is what you aren't supporting. So say the NCAA has a 1-year hormone replacement therapy system. So if you have to be on hormone suppressors or whatnot, medication for 1 year, are you mad at the athlete for participating in sports, or are you mad that the NCAA possibly set them up for greater success while going through that transition because they haven't, right? So it's who you're holding accountable, and whether or not you're actually upset about people competing in sport or not, or are you mad about the root of your belief in people transitioning? Does that make sense?
Makes sense. No, it makes
so
100% sense.
It's a scenario that we don't have all the answers to. And wherever you fall on that spectrum and what you personally believe, again, I want people to be upset at the right institutions and not at individuals for making choices for themselves.
For sure.
Because somebody choosing to transition, choosing to participate in sport, going through those things, that really doesn't have a lot of bearing on my life sitting in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
But it does affect other people's lives, and that's where I don't think I have the answers, because there's not a way for inclusion across the board when we're still sitting in two kind of categories, right? You have category A and category B, and you have to fit in those two categories. But there's even a spectrum within that. When you're looking at biologic hormone levels and things like that, there are multiple male athletes that have a lower testosterone level that are still competing against male athletes with a much higher testosterone level, but they're not allowed to take hormone therapy. On the reverse side of that, there is argument that a biologic male born athlete transitioning to female athletics, that their body is in worse shape because of that transition and hormones that are being introduced and whatnot. And I am not a doctor. I have no idea where that goes. On a personal level, I'm a big fan of making sure that your feelings are directed at the actual institution that they should be, not at an individual person for making their own choices.
I think it's very beautifully put. I think a lot of people maybe miss that part, because I think, end of the day, as people are tribalistic and divided, they always say somebody's right and somebody else is wrong, right? Or one way is right and the other way is wrong. And I think the only way to fix that is to bridge the gap to understand a person is still a person. And if they mean well, then they're a good person. If they mean poor or bad, then they're a bad person. You've been openly you've been public about being openly gay about it, and so you have a little more understanding than I do in the community, the LGBTQ plus community. So you said not to attack the people, but attack the organization, which I completely agree. Right? They're the ones that are making the rules. They're making the points of like how long you can or cannot be on the supplements. What would you think? What would you say because of you'd be a better spokesperson for this? What do you think from the association side of things would be something that would be fair to both an athlete like yourself, understanding both communities better than anybody else? What would you say would be the perfect answer to make everybody happy?
I really honestly don't think that we have it.
And
in the greater scheme of things, we live in a very polarized society. And that's something that I also struggle with, because I don't think, when you look at it, even if you're looking at like a political system, right, there's the far right and there's the far left is kind of how we identify it in the US. But most people don't fall all the way this way or all the way that way. And we're back to categories. Most people fall somewhere in the middle, and we don't have a well enough designed system for that, and we don't have a concept of it. And we like, even on a psychological standpoint, you like schemas, you like consistency, you like boxes, you like to know where to put things. And then we start doing that with people or not. And so I want people to find the same joy in sport that I have had, but then we're back to individual success. And so there's a lot of hot topic with the UPenn swimmer, Leah, I believe is her name.
Yeah.
And whether or not you walked away from that race with a first place trophy, a second place trophy, a third place trophy, whatnot, did you swim any slower because she was in the race? And then, or did you go out and do your best? Regardless of what the trophy, the trinket, at the outcome is, did you still participate at your highest personal level? We don't have a very good concept of that. So then, in order to really facilitate everyone participating, I feel like we would have to have another category created.
Yeah.
But then to do that, we would have to have a higher acceptance of that and let all athletes as they're growing up know that there is a place for that. But in order for that place to be created, everyone's going to have to accept that this is a reality. So it's hard for me to really talk about that just because I don't know enough with the science behind it, with the fairness, the outcome for the other athletes that are in those races and competing against people who they may feel it's not fair for them to compete against. But I'm also a very big proponent of your success does not mean my failure. My failure means my failure just as much as my success that I define means my success. So it's a probably a different take on it than most people have. I don't have the answers.
Hey, thanks for watching our Next Door Neighbors podcast.
And be sure to capture the full episode anywhere podcasts are streamed and including our YouTube channel, Next Door Neighbors.